Yeah, so Christian Scotland-Williamson. I'm a tight end for the Pittsburgh Steelers, former professional rugby player for Worcester Warriors.
So going to actually about that, you obviously started playing rugby. How did you start playing that?
So I played football, English football first, when I was younger. And then I played for a good team. I was a defender. Then I got a bit chubby. They put me in goal. And I got bored. So I sat down in goal once because my team was good. So all the action was at the other end. So I sat down. And then I told my mum, I was like, yeah, I don't like this anymore. Like, I'm kind of wasting my time here. Literally standing in the cold, doing nothing at the back. It wasn't for me. So then one of my family friends said, I'll come down to the local rugby club. So I did that. And then after the first practice, like, loved it. And then that was when I was about 9 years old. Then I went to boarding school at 11, which is a decent rugby school. Because where I live, nowhere really plays rugby at school. And I could have played for club, but I wanted to it was a good academic school as well. So I went there from 11 to 18, played rugby there, and then went to Loughborough, played rugby for Loughborough, got picked up in my last year for Loughborough to go and play for Worcester. So I signed my first deal in the October of my final year of uni, and then I was kind of playing on and off with them and my uni team while finishing my last year of my degree. And then finished my last exam on a Thursday, started pre-season on the Monday, and then 7 years or 6.5 years later, I'm in the NFL. So it's weird.
You know, what reminded me of what you said about football was, I had a similar story to football. I didn't really get fat. I was just really bad. So they're like, oh, you're Jonathan, you're going to go to the back, you're going to put you in goal, you'll be fine. That's what I'm like one of the kids you picked class when they came to school. And they're like, oh, yeah, you're the goalkeeper. Didn't know what I was doing though. Still terrible at that.
Yeah, that's the best way to like kill off anyone's dreams of playing that sport anymore.
I quit when I was like 11, so at least I was ahead of my time.
Yeah, exactly.
But going back to, like, you said you went to uni, so Loughborough is like a really big sports uni. So what was your schedule like, juggling, you know, obviously rugby, academics and all that kind of stuff?
Horrible. It was horrible. My last year was horrible, I'll be honest. So I would train with Worcester on Mondays and Wednesdays, and I'd have to be there for 7 a.m, finish around 3:30. And when I first started with them, I didn't have a car because I was just up at uni. So then I used to have to get the train. So I'd be up at 5 a.m, sometimes 4:45, to get like a 5:30 train. Because it's a regional service, I had to go from Loughborough to Leicester, and then Leicester to Worcester is like another regional service. So if my Loughborough to Leicester train was late, then the trains from Leicester to Worcester were only every 45 minutes. So sometimes I would like get there, doors closed in my face, sit at the platform for 45 minutes, have to ring the coach and be like, look, I'm going to be like 20 minutes late. And I get to Worcester Town Centre, the academy coach would come pick me up and drop me at practice. I'd be there from like 7, do meetings, weights, double rugby, and then eat lunch, get dropped back off at the train station, hour and a half train back to Loughborough. Then I'd go home, nap, and then I'd have Loughborough uni training from like 7 until 8:30 p.m. And then on Tuesdays, we didn't have training. And then Wednesdays, I might have a game for Loughborough. And if I didn't have a game for Loughborough, I'd be training with Worcester. And then I'd either play Wednesdays and Saturdays for Loughborough and Mondays A-League for Worcester. And then I think I had 3 or 4 first team appearances while I was at uni for Worcester as well. So I was just playing like mad rugby.
So obviously your schedule was like pretty hectic. How did you like sort out all your schedules and whatever, so you weren't like clashing, or you at least had time to relax or whatever?
So it basically, I didn't go out. I pretty much didn't go out at all. So it's really weird how it happened. So I only got picked up just from sheer luck, because like I wasn't in any academies when I was younger, which is weird because I was 6'7" when I was 15. So I get overlooked by that, you know. There wasn't any academies. And then, so I went to Loughborough because it was a chance for me to keep playing a really high level of rugby, because they're the best uni side in the country, and they played in the national leagues too, as well as get a good degree. And so I was just playing for fun going into my final year. And then I was actually, because I used to fit, you have like lifting platforms. I used to help out one of the guys who had one of those companies that's really taken off now. And we were driving up to York University to drop some gym mats off. And he was asking me in the car, like, oh, how comes you've never really been noticed, been picked up? And I said, I just never had the opportunity. And in that car ride, my attack coach, the assistant coach of Loughborough, called me up and said, look, Worcester need a stand-in for like a reserve fixture, for an A-League fixture. Do you want to go? And I didn't know, but he actually called someone else before and they didn't answer. But I was the one that answered, and I was like, yeah, sure. So up until that point, I was buzzing. So I got home from York, and then drove down to Worcester, not knowing anything, literally packed my boots and my gum shield, drove down to Worcester, got there like 2 hours before kickoff, spoke to the academy coach, spoke to the guy running it. And he was like, yeah, thanks for coming down. We need someone to kind of play for us today because we've got an injury or whatever. I said, yeah, sure. Didn't know any of the system, any of the play calls, so they simplified everything for me. And I started the game, played the whole game, played the whole 80 minutes, played really well. After the game, the head coach and the forwards coach come up to me and they say, oh, we really like how you play, we want to get you back down. So I come back down the next week, play again. After that, they said, look, we want to get you down training. So then that's when I started training with them. And then within 6 weeks, I went from playing my first A-League game for them to signing my first professional contract in the changing room before I went out and made my debut on a Friday night. And I scored on my debut, and then it happened like that.
So what was that feeling like, just signing it in the changing rooms?
It was mad because, so I was my first team debut as well. And so, because basically what happened was the head coach said that, so I've been training, I probably trained with him like 5 times at that point, as well as played 2 games for them, 2 or 3 games for the reserves. And then he rang me up. So I was just sitting in my uni flat with my friends, and he phoned me up on a Wednesday, the academy coach, saying, oh, the big man wants to play on Friday. And I was like, there's no reserve games on Friday. What are you talking about? And I said, no, he wants to put you in the real thing. And I was like, what? Because I don't really know the system yet. Like, I'm still just like a uni rugby player finding my feet. And he said, no, he wants to play on Friday, but he's not going to put you in the shop window without having any guarantees. So basically, because in case I played really well, he wasn't going to have me playing on TV. So then other teams could kind of come and see me, and then he's got no concrete guarantees that I'm even his player. It would just be great for me, obviously, but he would want some guarantees. So we hashed out a contract within like 3 days for me to sign. And I signed it when I got down there about 3 hours before kickoff, as well as I was coming off the bench, making my debut, packed crowd. And I always love playing evening games under lights anyway. A few of my friends from uni drove down. My parents were in the crowd as well. And then on like the last few minutes of the game, I managed to score. And that was the craziest feeling ever, because things happened so fast in that I got a 3-day notice period that I would be playing and making my first team debut, that I didn't have time to really think about too much in terms of overthinking it. And I always remember my coach has said to me, just go out there and rip up some trees. Like, basically just go out, be physical, play fast, and just don't worry about making mistakes. And then that kind of took a lot of the pressure off of the moment, as well as like, I remember they called my name, they said, Chris, warm up. And like, I'm the worst for, if I'm coming off the bench, I never want to do too much during the game, because I think, I'll be knackered when I get out there. I'm going to be really tired if I'm just running up and down the sideline all the time. So I didn't really know how to manage my energy, because I was obviously like watching and like excited on the sideline, like really hoping I was going to get on. And they called my name. I was like, it's happening. And then I remember I'm subbing in, and obviously it's like you're subbing in with someone who's on the far corner as well. So you're just sort of running across the whole field to actually get to your position to start the game off. And then I scored within like 4 minutes of being on the pitch, which was just surreal and crazy. And then parents were in the crowd afterwards. And then from that moment, I got back to uni, and then I was in a very privileged position of, like, I had a job lined up now. So I had been applying for grad schemes and trying to get a job lined up for the summer once I'd finished my degree, just like normal jobs, because that whole pro route wasn't really a thing for me. It wasn't really a realistic ambition, because I just turned 20 and it hadn't happened for me at that point. I'd never been in the academy. So why would I think that now I'm going to end up being a professional rugby player? Like, just didn't make sense. So then I was calling up the companies I had interviews for, like final interview, and said, look, I've got this opportunity. It was only a 1-year deal. But I said, I haven't had a gap year. If it works out, great. If it doesn't, then I haven't really lost anything from trying. And then, so that was in 2013. And then now I'm still in the machine.
So speaking of uni and mindset, so a lot of people have the kind of mindset of, if you get like a degree or education or whatever, or you want to find like a backup job, it's like you destine yourself to failure for whatever. Do you ever have that kind of mindset, or it was like, okay, if one thing doesn't work out, at least I know I've got this, so you're kind of setting things in line for yourself?
Yeah, so I've always found difficulty in when people say you have to choose one or the other. Like, it's happened to me multiple times in my career. Like, I got my master's while I was playing rugby. And I know that it was a sticking point for some people who thought like, oh, you're not putting everything into the sport and you're number one and what you're meant to be doing. Your life should just be about this. Whereas I feel like if you've got the capacity to do more, because it only allows you to enrich yourself off the field, which for me, I know even when I got to the NFL as well, is that, yes, there's a lot of pressure in terms of making the team, getting another contract and stuff like that. But when you know that rugby and sport is a moment in your life where there will come an expiration date where you cannot play anymore. I'm not going to be doing this when I'm 50, but you could be a 30-year-old who's had a great career, like a 10-year career, and then you have 50 more years, hopefully, of your life to live. Like, that's really just a moment in time where you've been a professional athlete. So you might as well make the most of it to keep an eye on things that you might be interested in off the field and opportunities for later in life. And I've always been a firm believer in that. So like, it's given me the ability to have not the freedom of not caring, but the confidence to actually just commit fully to something. Cause I know that once this is gone, it's gone forever, but I have to be at peace with that. And a lot of people aren't able to do that because it's all they have. And I've met people like it, and I understand the reason why. It's because like I feel like I put just as much, if not more, effort into what I'm doing on the field as other people, but I draw a line under it where, so say I went through a rough period when I played rugby and I broke my back, and that's when I went back to uni and got my master's, because I needed something that was a distraction, because I was just miserable every single day, not really able to walk, watching all my teammates being able to run around doing what I wanted to do. And like, it's easy to get down because you're on the sidelines injured for an extended period of time. So that allowed me to have that separation between life, rugby, and like what other interests I might have.
Seems like uni did like a lot for you where you have to juggle, so like sports, family, going out, that kind of stuff. But what I haven't asked you is, what did you actually study at uni?
Geography and economics. Yeah. So
I don't get how that adds up.
Yeah, not many people do. Everyone's like, Loughborough, what science? I was like, nah.
Do you know what's really funny actually? Because at my uni, I went to Staffordshire. So my good friends, they did geography, and their first lesson was to go to the local park and just walk around. That was it.
Really? Okay, I'll be honest. We had a Paris field trip, which was really cool because it's about urban planning. And they basically said, here's a map of Paris, go on the train, get out at different stops and just explore the city for a week. So that was one of the best parts of the trip. But in terms of like, in my first year, we did this trip to the Lake District, and we had to measure rivers and stuff like that. I was not interested at all. That's just not me. Like, so that's where the geography and economics mixes in, because I'm interested in more like the migration and like movement of people side of geography, the physical like weather, rivers, all that.
So if they got you to go camping, or was that the way you?
No, that's not me. That's not me. As soon as first year was done and you could choose your electives, all of my electives were like more tending towards like the economic side of geography, rather than I was not a physical geographer. No. I wasn't in the field measuring like dirt and stuff like that. No, that wasn't me.
So obviously you're now in the NFL, but while you were playing rugby, did you know of the NFL, or like you watching that kind of stuff?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I was a Steelers fan from when I was like 13, 14 years old.
Oh, so you got lucky then.
So I'm having the ultimate fan experience right now. It's crazy. Yeah, so I'd always, because especially being a rugby player, like I used to watch pump up videos of NFL before I'd go and play rugby when I was at school. Like it was just normal because they've got big hits, like loud culture, fun culture to be around. You always, as an English person, for me, I always wondered what would that be like. Like I used to play NFL Street on my PSP on the way to games, and I created this custom player who was like 6'8", 6'9", 270 pounds, big afro, put him at quarterback, like max speed, and I used to just like run up walls and do all these random stuff when I was a kid. And that was probably that and FIFA were my favorite games. So I'd always like known about the NFL. I think I used to just sit in my room at boarding school just watching random videos on YouTube. So I've always had an understanding of it and followed it. But then it's very different to when you actually get in the building, because I thought I kind of knew the rules and you know what's going on. It's like if you get plugged into the matrix and you realize like you have the eye-opening experience of like how much detail there is, all the levels to it. And it's allowed me to put everything into it because the novelty is still there for me. I've only been playing American football I've been with the Steelers now 2 years, but I moved to America in January of 2018. So like 2.5 years that I've been into this, but it's allowed me to put everything into it. Because when I watch film, it's like I'm getting free Sky Red Zone subscription, but I've got it every day in more detail and I can replay stuff a lot easier. So I can just sit and watch film for hours. It's not really a chore for me.
So obviously you said you used to watch pump up videos and that kind of stuff. Was there any like particular players that you like to watch?
Yeah, Troy Polamalu for the Steelers.
My internet is gone.
Tasmanian Devil. So yeah, he had long hair. I just loved it. He was really humble, but he was a beast. Like he was just incredible, which is funny because he's on the defensive side of the ball, and I obviously play offense. But in rugby, probably my calling card was I was really physical in defense, but then obviously in attack I could carry as well. So it's just funny that I ended up on offense.
My internet is going to bit. Don't know if you can hear me actually.
Yeah, I can
hear me.
You went out for a little bit. Yeah, I can hear you now.
So actually, I asked.
One sec, you're cutting up.
Troy Polamalu and Charles. No. Oh, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Yeah.
Yeah, so I asked Tiggy, and Tiggy actually said he really rates Troy Polamalu like quite highly as well, especially because he's a safety. So obviously, what made you want to go into the NFL?
So I've always kind of been on the outside looking in from not being in academies and stuff like that. And then when I got the opportunity to be a professional rugby player, I realized that like I have what it takes and physically I measure up, if not exceed most people. So this was the next step in terms of challenging myself. And like, how often do you get the chance to think that you could be one of the best athletes in the world, but actually test yourself and see how you measure up? And that was the big thing for me. Was I knew I was going to get out of rugby. It was good, but this was something that I never had the opportunity to even think was an option. And I'm not someone that's going to die wondering what if, shoulda, coulda, woulda people who's like, oh, well, I played it safe, kept the predictable route. And like my journey into rugby was one of kind of nothing was planned out. It was just happened spur of the moment. So it's not something that I haven't done before, where I've been kind of thrown in the deep end at the highest level, not having the same kind of history of preparation as other people, and I've been able to come out on top. So it wasn't really, at no point did I look at it as something that I couldn't do. It was more just a matter of when and like how long it would take.
So obviously you're a tight end. Did you kind of choose that because of your rugby background? So obviously you have to catch the ball and whatever. Because I remember some of my friends last off season told me to come down and train with the local rugby team. But one of them literally told me to come down because he knows I can't catch, and just said it would be funny just to see me catch the ball. That was it. He said he didn't even know if I could be. He thought I could be all right. Was like, I just want to see you drop the ball. So was that like a similar reason why you chose tight end? Because obviously you're quite big and you have to catch the ball as well.
Yeah, exactly. Because it was between that and defensive end. But because of like the skills you just mentioned, but also because I play both sides of the ball in rugby, the physical side doesn't scare me. So like a lot of tight ends tend towards the more skill position, like big receiver type. Whereas for me, if I get matched up against a defensive end, 9 times out of 10, I will be taller than them or bigger than them at the moment. So it creates a more even matchup where if I can attack them, because I could have played either position, I see it as if I can attack a defensive end in the same way that he would attack me, but as a tight end, then that means I'll have a job in the NFL because there aren't many people that can do that.
So before you chose a tight end, did you know you could actually catch a football properly?
I was terrible. I'll be completely honest. Like my first workout was awful. I watched my first workout tape the other day, and I can't get a three. My 3-point start is disgusting. Like it looks horrible. Like my legs are wide. I don't know what I'm doing. Bending it completely at the waist. No knee bend. Rounding on my brakes. I've never had to catch a ball over my shoulder, like running that way and then catch like this in my life, because everything in rugby you see, because you can only pass backwards. So it took me a good year and a half to develop that skill, to be comfortable with having like a 50-yard bomb, sprinting full speed, and you're peeking over your shoulder and then catch it late, just because I've never done that before. And the ball's smaller, and it comes out a lot quicker, and obviously at different angles to what you're used to. So my catching in the first year was terrible. Like, because in rugby, you catch the ball kind of like this because you have to distribute again. Whereas with football, you have to catch the front of the ball because you don't have to pass it. So I spent 14 years catching like this with a big round ball. And so when I was trying to do that with football, I'd catch it. My timing was perfect. But if they're zipping the ball at you, it'd be like straight through your hands. And that happened all the time. So then I literally had to retrain myself to, instead of closing like this, to shoot my hands like this and catch the front of the ball. And that, like, you don't really think stuff like that will be a big difference. Like, I didn't know that would be a big deal going into it. I was like, yeah, I've caught that shaped ball for 15 years. Like, that's not a problem. And then you realize, like, no, it is actually a different skill.
So can you just explain how you actually got into NFL, like what kind of route you took?
How I got into it?
Yeah.
What's like through the pathway and all that stuff?
Yeah.
Okay. So I was playing rugby in the Premiership, made a big tackle against Wasps. That ended up...
That was actually pretty good. I saw that.
Yeah, that ended up getting some traction on Twitter and stuff. And then I suppose that got in front of the right people. And then my phone rang one day in the locker room again. So like 2 phone calls have changed my life. And it was... So Alex Gray, who was with the Falcons, there was someone that helped him get the opportunity through the pathway. So he basically reached out to me and was like, look, you probably got what it takes. Would you be interested? And at that time, that was the last year of my contract. So I was like kind of looking around to see what my best options would be, whether it was moving to another club within rugby or staying with the team I was in. So that actually was good timing for me because I didn't have like another year on my deal. So then I met up with a few people with the NFL, so like Adam and Will, and they kind of explained the process to me. And I just went back into my team and said, look, I'm leaving. Like, I don't want to do this anymore. Basically, I think that I've got an opportunity I never thought I could have. And it's something that's not guaranteed, but something that I really want to pursue. And they understood my reasons. And they just released me from my contract in December. And then I flew to IMG in the January with Tiggy, Chris, Moritz and Jordan and Anthony Dable. And we just got after it for like 14 weeks. Did a pro day, finished pro day, and then found out I was going to the Steelers. And then I've been, in Pittsburgh since April of 2018.
So speaking of IMG, because when I spoke to Tiggy,
Mhm.
He said that was probably like one of the worst trainings he's actually ever gone through. And like, he used to play for the same team that I used to down here. And
Mhm.
we have some coaches that are mental that make you do like super laps or whatever. He said way harder than that. How did you feel about it?
So, because I'd done a couple of rugby pre-seasons, like my first rugby pre-season, I wanted to cry, I wanted to quit, like definitely. And this was that in a different way, because conditioning wise, it wasn't as bad as what I'd done in rugby, but it was literally 6 a.m. on the field doing like a walkthrough before breakfast, and jog through, then 7 o'clock breakfast, and then it was literally we were racing on our bikes between different sessions to get from one side of the campus to another. Half an hour to eat here and there. And that was the only downtime we had. So we had so many jokes in like the cafeteria and stuff, because that's the only time we had to even spare a minute. Because then be on the field for like 3 hours a day in the film with the coach, and then once the day's done, we then go back to our villas and we have to watch film and like learn installs from like 7 to 9 or 10. So our days were literally like 6 till probably 10:30 at night, almost 11, and you probably had 2 hours of downtime in that, and that was 6 days a week for 14 weeks. So it was a lot. But the thing is, the 5 of us got so close because, or 6 of us got so close because we were literally in the trenches together, and like there were other guys who were preparing for the combine who weren't going anywhere near as hard as we were, because they'd been to college, they'd been playing before, whereas we're literally having a crash course in everything that's going to get you ready for the NFL. So every day, every minute counted, and it meant something. And I don't think we could have done any more in that time, like physically, in a way.
So Maurice had already been to the combine and played in the NFL and whatever. So was he able to like give you a few tips and whatever on how to progress and what you meant to do here and there? Especially because he changed to tight end at that point, didn't he?
Yeah, he switched to tight end. Yeah, like halfway through that camp, because he was just a receiver before. He did, because he shares his experience with the Vikings and kind of like what that professional environment's like. Because the NFL environment is very different to a rugby professional environment. They require a very different skill set to navigate the system, to get through practice, to be in the right place at the right time, for example, and not get fined. That's another thing. So, so he gave us a few tips.
So obviously, with rugby, you do a lot of running. You basically don't stop. Unlike NFL, where it's kind of more of a start kind of stop kind of thing. Did that kind of fitness help you through the camp?
Yeah, 100%. So, and that's even helped me here, where like my baseline level of fitness is probably up there with some of the best on the team, in terms of just being able to get into that black hole and just keep going. But the intensity was something that I'd never experienced before, because every single rep is a full sprint and full speed. And with rugby, it's more just continuous. It's like you don't really max out your speed in a game. Like you might have 100 meters over 70% running in a game, whereas this is, so I'm probably covering the same amount of total distance in a day in rugby as over here, except here that distance is all sprinting, and that took a lot to get used to, like physically.
Yeah, you're probably working for like 5 seconds, but that 5 seconds can kill you.
All out.
I was going to say, so obviously you'd obviously played professional rugby. Now you've gone to IMG and so on. How does like the way you lift, the way you eat kind of change?
Oh man, I got so big. I got so big. So I told them when I first left rugby that the way I keep my weight down is I run probably like 20 kilometers a week at least, through like practice and all that stuff, lift 4 times a week. And it's that distance that helps me keep my weight down. So then I get put into a position where everything I'm doing is just sprinting and lifting heavy weights. And I was like, if I lift heavy weights, I get huge. So I went from 265 pounds, 267 pounds when I first got to IMG, to 296 pounds within 5 weeks. And
so you're DN, basically. You turned to a D tackle, actually.
And I was still 11% body fat. And I told them, so I did my pro day, right? So going into our pro day, and I'm thinking, tackles and centers weigh 300, and I'm 4 pounds off of that, right? I'm like, I don't really want to play that position. So the 3 weeks before the pro day, I'm like a boxer, just like hoodie, sweaty up, just trying to just get some weight off for the pro day. So I get down to like, so I think I weighed in at my pro day like 282 because I like depleted myself to try and be lighter. I was like, I can't weigh in at 290, and that's ridiculous. And I think I ran my pro day at like 287, which is just insane. Like ridiculous.
That's absolutely massive.
Huge, like 130 kilos.
So when you get in your 40?
Slow. That's why. And I ended up tearing my hamstring on my pro day because it was too heavy, like way too heavy. I think I told them that like I get big if I do that. So then it took me also adjusting to American diet didn't help because I was like, they put syrup and everything, waffles and stuff like that. But because you're training so much, like it ended up converting to good weight, but it was still weight. And like Chick-fil-A and stuff like that you don't need that. So it took me a full year to kind of correct that and get back down. So now I'm like 267, so I'm back down to the weight I should be. Because I know that like when I'm heavier, it just doesn't do me any favors. Like getting in and out of your breaks hurt. Like, yes, you're powerful inline blocking, but my position is more than that. Like I have to be able to get downfield, move around.
Yeah.
And getting that weight back off helped a lot in my second year.
So speaking about being powerful and stuff, how have you found like the difference between NFL and rugby? Obviously, like you said, you're doing a lot more sprinting, but do you find it like you have to be a lot more faster, or is it there a lot more aggression, a lot more power, that kind of stuff?
With rugby, you can take reps off occasionally. That's the reality. You can, like in the training week, where you can kind of go through the motions, even though you shouldn't. But it's, say if you have a 4-minute block of continuous running, you can find ways to be in the right position to conserve your energy and stuff like that, where you don't like overfold on stuff and things like that. Whereas in American football, there's no hiding, because every single rep, there's someone lining up opposite you that sees their rep as you standing in between them making the roster and not making the roster. So they're never taking a rep off. So like when you get into the training camp setting, it is literally a dogfight, like where they throw a stake between two dogs and then let them fight over it. And that's what it is. It's every single thing is in that kind of rep tally, which is like win-loss column. Every time you get in that huddle, you see it as a win-loss column. Have I executed? Have I done what I was meant to do? Did I win my rep? Whether it's one-on-one or in training. And that mentality is what sets this level of competition apart from any other league, because even within the season, it's like that. Because if you're a bubble guy, you have a bad week of practice, you might not be there next week.
So actually, what just popped in my head was, obviously in rugby, you're not allowed to like spare and so on, but that's completely different at NFL. Did you have to adjust to that? Did that hurt a lot more?
So I got blown up on my first catch in the NFL. I've never been hit like that before in my life, ever. But it was the best feeling I ever had in my life, because so in rugby, if someone has like a 15-yard run up on you and they're like arms are up in the air, ribs exposed, and they don't see you coming, and you hit them running full speed, they're going to stay down. Well, if you hit hard, they will stay down, right? So I got hit in those exact circumstances, but I got up and I thought, no way, because I've been hit so much harder in rugby training than that hit, except it looks big on camera, but the pads and the protection, I can't even explain how much of a difference it makes compared to being like rugby, put t-shirt on and shorts and put your mouth guard in, and then you go and you hit I hit just as hard as these guys do without pads on. And so getting hit like that was really refreshing for me, because like it basically makes you fearless, because you're like, all right then, like it's not really a big deal. I've been doing this 15 years without pads, so it doesn't really bother me.
So that obviously that helped your mentality. So what a lot of people go into when it comes to American football is the kind of, this is gonna hurt, or I've got all the pads on so I can just do whatever I want. So obviously with your background in rugby, where you're taking continuous hits or you're giving them out, do you think that kind of helped you to like toughen up and support while staying in your position?
100%. Like I look at some stuff that happens and people's reaction to it, and I just have a different context to kind of draw from, and I'm kind of thinking like, that's not that crazy. Like, everything looks really physical and big, but I think that sometimes guys, because they have all this protective gear, like with rugby, you never tackle with your head because you'll break your neck. Like you just don't do stuff like that. Whereas some football players play in a way that because they've got all this protection, they're like invincible, which like is an adjustment. But now, like once you've, especially for me, because like I was a physical rugby player, that's kind of what I was my calling card. So the idea that I can have that much padding on my shoulders, oh my god, like it makes such a difference. Like I honestly cannot even explain. My shoulders haven't felt so good in years.
So that actually brings us to another point. So obviously at Steelers, you lot are like very good with defense. So you have players like TJ Watt, Bud Dupree. When you go up against them, what's it like?
I've gone up against them every single day for the last 2 years.
It's not that much fun.
The first year was baptism of fire. Like I was just getting run around every single rep. It was humbling. That's what this whole process has been, because like you go from a position where you know the sport, you know the game, you play since you're like 9, 10 years old, you don't think about stuff, you're comfortable, to then you go into a new sport in a new country and you go in at the highest level with guys who've been playing it since they were 4 years old with the anticipation of making it to the highest level. So like you're just stepping into a bear pit where you're completely unprepared. So, but on the flip side, because of like our culture, everyone practices really hard throughout the year, and like our training camp's really physical. So if you look at what is going to get someone the closest to being ready to playing in an actual game, it's going to be being able to replicate the game as close as possible. And that's what I've been able to get from working with and against those two, is that TJ was all pro in 2 positions last year. Like Bud Dupree, I think should have been a Pro Bowler last year. And when you're going up against guys like that, and then you start to realize not every team in the league has a defense like that. So you're literally going up against it'd be like, obviously this is a bit of a stretch, but like equivalent of like, say you're going up, like Last Dance, you're scrimmaging against like Michael and Scottie Pippen. Like and then you go and play someone that's not them. You're going to be like, well, like I've gone up against these guys every day for the past 2 years. So my standard expectations here, so I'm basically getting game reps every single day.
So speaking of which, so obviously TJ's probably around the same kind of weight as you, but Bud isn't going to be that kind of size, but obviously he's still pretty quick. Has it shown you how, even though in football you can still be pretty big, but if you haven't got the speed, it's not that useful?
Bud Dupree can be in the backfield if you take a wrong step. One step wrong, he's gone. He is gone. Because he's a big guy. Like he's like 270, 265. He's bigger than TJ. Yeah. It's all lower half, all trunk and like legs. And he's strong. So he's really stout. So how I play both of them is very different. Like TJ is like an assassin who's going to give you a clinic every single rep, like doing Muay Thai with his hands and stuff. And then Bud's the same, but like if Bud decides to pass rush and just go because he's reading the snap count, by the time you go like, he's literally shoulder to shoulder with you in the backfield if he's jumped the count, like, and that speed was something that I have never seen before, honestly, for people that big. And then even the interior guys, like, so Cam Hayward's all pro. I go up against him sometimes when he lines up opposite me. And then the way that those guys who are like 330 pounds can still move within like a 5-yard radius, their first step, and the amount of power they're able to generate. Like, I've never really been pushed back like that before. But if you have bad technique, bad leverage, you're never going to win. It doesn't matter how big you are. So that was something I really had to learn jumping from my first to second year.
So what are the differences between a day in the NFL and a day as a professional rugby player?
A lot less coffee in the NFL. Rugby, you finish at 3, go for a coffee. Like, you want to go David Lloyd for coffee? You want to go to the cafe, get a coffee? Yeah. And then with the NFL, it's literally a 6.5 day a week job. 7 really, because like I get into the building at 6 a.m., do all my pre-stuff. I work out probably 7 to 7:45. Then we have meetings at 8 till 10, walk through 10:15 till probably 11:30, practice 12 till 2:30, watch post-practice film 3 to 4. Then I'll go and do some more kind of recovery bits, work on myself for about an hour, hour and a half. I'll probably leave the building at 6 o'clock, and that's in season. And then you have obviously game Sunday, walk through Saturday, things like that. So whereas with rugby, I think we end up a 4-day split: Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, where you're out of the building by 2 on a Monday, 4 on a Tuesday, Wednesday go and do what you want, kind of recovery stuff. Thursday is fast day, out by 2, and then Friday you're done at midday. But rugby season goes on from August to May. Football is August to January, which is a very big difference. Like rugby, you have a 4.5-week off season.
Yeah,
you have a lot longer.
I don't know if you know, we talked to Phoebe Schechter, who coached at Buffalo Bills, and she said her day would start at like 6 a.m. She wouldn't get home till like 10, something crazy like that. I was like,
coaching life is a different life, because you have to watch all the practice from the day, then you have to watch all the practice for preparation for the next day, break down film, know the install, plan the practice, execute the practice. Yeah, coaching grind is different. I realized that so we had Christmas Day practice. That's just like normal. You don't really, holidays and birthdays don't really mean anything once you're a professional athlete. So the coaches, they had like a West Coast game or something. They must have got in at 3 a.m. and they were back in the office breaking down the film for a short week at like 6 a.m.
What? Mm-hmm. I don't know if I could ever do that.
And the classic term that gets thrown around is, and it's so true though, and then once you buy into it, it's what it is you don't get paid by the hour, you get paid by results. So it's like whatever it takes.
If you win the Super Bowl, I guess they'll think it's worth it. But obviously I'm not in that, so I can't really comment. But I'm just happy I don't have to do the kind of hours.
I couldn't be an NFL coach, I'll be honest. Like I love playing, I love that side of it. And I can be involved with like back office stuff, but that coaching grind is serious.
So we spoke to a former NFL tight end, Afani Moma, and he talked about how he practiced, dance moves when he gets in the end and that kind of stuff. You got a 1-2 moves, or you just
nothing.
Run off?
I'm not gonna embarrass myself like that. Understand? Like hitch, like sticking to 2-step, you stick in your wheelhouse. That's I'm too big to be doing anything too flamboyant. I'll leave that to like the small steel guys, man. Like I can't be embarrassing myself. Like, I end up looking like Peter Crouch or something.
You don't want to, teach him some English swag. You teach him, I don't know, like gun lean or something like that.
People be like, "What is wrong with this guy?" There's like all English slang and stuff. What's it called? That Skepta ASAP Rocky track.
Yeah. Praise the Lord.
Everyone just always looks at you like, "Yeah, London." As like you're the ambassador for that stuff. It is funny though, because like a lot of them can't understand a single word of like a UK grime artist or anything. Like, no way, it's too fast. Way too fast.
So when you play songs, does it sound like what mumble rap does sound like to us?
Yeah, except so for them, like, so I feel like the lyricism in grime obviously depends on who you listen to, but if you compare lyricism in like grime and UK rap to like mumble rap's all the catchy hooks and ad-libs. That's what people, and then it's the beat. That's what people will turn up to. Whereas like the meaning behind a lot of stuff that we listen to is lost on people when they listen to it over here because they can't understand the accent. That makes sense.
Someone like Gets.
I played Gets to someone the other day, and he was like, "What? What is this?" Because I think I played Listen. So the beat was cold. He's like, "Yeah, the beat's fire, but I have no idea what he's saying."
So actually, speaking of which, about London, So I saw your interview with NFL Academy, and obviously over there they call you Big London. Do you think that they've got like no kind of like imagination when it comes to nicknames?
Well, I get called Scotty and Big London, and I think it's just like, but like my brother who played college basketball over here got called Scotty and London, so it's just like, if you're English, London. Like,
yeah, to be fair, I can't really say, but I just remembered on my team, if anyone from France came over, they just automatically called Frenchie. That was it.
that's what I'm saying. It's just the obvious one. It's easy. So yeah, like that just ended up sticking. My offensive coordinator calls me Big London. So like, and it's so funny because a few other Christians on the team now. So when I hear Christian, I'm like, and I remember no one.
So before we go, do you have any advice for like athletes who want to try and make it to NFL or make it into college and so on?
Yeah, make sure you just immerse yourself in the game. So having gone through the process of learning it all pretty quickly, is just watch as much film as you can, find people you like and try and copy what they do. That's pretty much what I've done. I've like gone through Titans in the league, gone, okay, I like what you do this well, you do that well, and then try and create your own style from that, because that's the best way to do it. See what people do well at the highest level and try and copy it.
Sounds like you basically just said, take your FIFA Street person and let's make it into you.
Create character. I'm telling you, I created my character when I was 11 on NFL Street 2. I just can't run up walls now. That's the difference.
You get the afro, so you're close.
Yeah, exactly. So I need to grow out a bit more.
But thank you. Like, this has actually been like really good talk to you. Learned a few things. Hopefully everything stays good with you. Especially, I'm a Ravens fan. I said this to Tiggy as well. So I wish you the best, but I can't really wish you too much because obviously we got Lamar Jackson and all that. So
it's
hey,
fine.
if you can bust a, like I said, a little gunly, little something when you get there, let them know some sort of confidence.
I'll give it a try, especially if we play the Ravens.
All right. Thank you again, man. Have a good time. Stay safe.
You too, bro. See you, man.